Good. Go.
6.0, reconvene open session, procedural business, 5:30 p.m. 6.1, call to order. The Board of Trustees are hereby reconvening open session at 5:38 p.m. 6.2, roll call. Trustees identify themselves by first and last name to formally establish quorum. Dana Ridland, trustee area 2.
Scott Kraft, trustee area 4. Dr. William Mellinger, trustee area 1.
Cindy Gardner, trustee area 3.
And I want to, Jordan Zarate was not able to make it into the district office today. He was hoping to be able to participate virtually, but since we did not have it posted by 4 o'clock that he was going to participate virtually, he is not able to be a participant with this meeting. He sends his regrets and also just, I know it's breaking his heart for him not to be here. I think this is the 3rd time in 6 years that he's missed a meeting, and it's something that he takes a lot of pride in. So, no, but yeah, I talked to him and yeah, he's sad. So moving right along, I just wanted to make sure I mentioned that. 6.3, Pledge of Allegiance led by Mrs. Whiteside, please.
Right hand over your heart. Ready? Begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Closed session report. 7.1, announcement of reportable actions taken during closed session. There are 2 to report. In closed session, the board took action to unanimously accept the settlement agreement for special education. Additionally, the board voted to unanimously approve the stipulated expulsion for case number 05-24/25. 8.0, public testimony. 8.1, public comment period listed on this agenda and non-agenda items within the subject matter jurisdiction of the governing board. The public comment period is administered by state law and is the point in the meeting set aside for members of the public to share their opinions with the board. Open meeting laws do not permit the board to engage in dialogue or answer questions. Though it may not take action on non-agenda issues raised at the public comment period, the board, for example, may refer any matter to the superintendent for review or take action to direct staff to place a matter of business on a future agenda. Protocols for speakers. Any person who wishes to address the governing board on agenda and non-agenda items within the subject matter of their jurisdiction must complete a speaker's form and submit it to the executive secretary to the superintendent before the meeting is called to order. Individual speakers are allowed 3 minutes to address the board on each agenda item. The board limits the total time for public input on each item to 20 minutes. Speakers who have complaints against board members or staff are encouraged to seek resolution to those complaints by using the Rim of the World Unified School District written complaint procedure rather than orally addressing them at a meeting. The board will not respond to such complaints until the applicable complaint procedure, BP/AR 1312.1, has been followed and has reached the board level. Where a complaint concerns a district employee identifiable by name, position, or other facts, the board cannot respond until proper written notice has been given to the employee pursuant to Government Code Section 54957. Quorum. The governing board is interested in the ideas and opinions of all stakeholders and endeavors to incorporate community views into its deliberations and decisions. At the same time, it must be able to conduct its business in an organized and efficient manner, free from material disruption. Therefore, in accordance with Board Bylaw 9323 and Government Code Section 54957.9, audience members may not disrupt, disturb, or otherwise impede the orderly conduct of this meeting. Open meeting laws do not confer any privilege or protection for expression beyond that otherwise provided by law. The public's understanding and cooperation are appreciated. So we do have 7 different people who I think are already online to provide public comments. We do not have anybody here in person as far as doing public comments. The first person I'm going to ask to provide comments is S. Nicholas, Nick. She is representing everyone, and the topic is RIM district's interest level. And please note that all public comments are limited to 3 minutes.
Hi, is someone able to start my video or no? All right, y'all have to stare at my name. I'm Nick, and I'm glad everyone is safely here tonight. Hello to those watching cozy and warm at home. Thank you, Mark, for starting my video. I teach theater at MPH and RIM High School. I am also RTA Vice President. I don't need to tell you how smart, skilled, talented, educated, and experienced RIM teachers are. You know that because you hired us. I don't need to tell you that RIM teachers go above and beyond with amazing lessons, community events, and care for our students. You know that, and you literally speak about it every board meeting. I don't need to tell you that RIM teachers show up, work tirelessly, and struggle but get the job done. You know that because you watch us succeed every single day. So given that you already know how hardworking and wonderful RIM teachers are, why are you sending the message that you have no interest in whether your teachers stay or go? The district must not be interested in supporting their teachers who are an integral part of this community because the district has no interest in providing fair and adequate salary and benefits. The district must not be interested in alleviating teacher burnout and must not be interested in providing students and families with the education they deserve because the district has no interest in reducing class sizes. Now, I am personally all in, here for the long haul. My kids attended RIM schools and now work here, and I want my grandchildren to attend RIM schools. So, you're stuck with me. But if the district wants to continue hiring and retaining highly qualified teachers, y'all better start showing some interest in fair wages, adequate benefits, and reduced class sizes. Thank you.
Thank you, Nick. Our next speaker is Sherry Soto. Who are you representing? Myself, concerned community member. And the topic is the Tomorrow's Readiness Starts Today grant.
Good evening. Good evening, board members. I'm glad everybody got there safe. It's very scary out there. That's why I'm home and staying safe. I'm here today to voice my concerns about the Tomorrow Readiness Starts Today grant that Ed Services presented on January 23rd. This grant is a 3-year grant, $250,000 annually, and it will put a preschool on each elementary campus. It will be servicing 0 to 3-year-olds. Then on February 20th, it was presented to the board, the staffing for this. The staffing for the preschool will cost $100,000. That's not including welfare, health, and benefits. It will be $100,000 for the coordinator, $50,000 for a site lead at each site. If you have it at each site, that's $150,000. And $34,000 for an instructional assistant. That's another $102,000 if it's at each elementary site. Grand total of $352,000 per year for the 3 sites. That's above the $250,000 grant. So the grant is not fully funded, as I was told it was fully funded. I was told when I went to the town hall meeting that the district will be starting small. They'll start at 1 site at VOE. That is still $184,000 for just 16 students. That leaves us $66,000 in operational costs. How are you going to furnish the classrooms? Health and welfare for the preschool staff, transportation, breakfast and lunches, internet, phone, are all. And plus, there's probably more operational costs that I'm not aware of. Also, like I said, it'll only be servicing up to 16 kids unless you add another assistant or another teacher, another preschool teacher, that's going to be more money on top of it too. This grant is going to cost us more than we are taking in. We also do not receive ADA for preschool students. And at the town hall meeting, Dr. Saviano let us know that we are in a $5.3 million deficit right now, that we need to cut that from our budget. It sounds like this is going to add debt to our budget instead of reducing it. This and other grants are basically robbing Peter to pay Paul. Peter is our wonderful, amazing teachers and our great support staff. And Paul is our grant person. He's getting us so many grants, but we're robbing from one to pay for another. This makes me sad. I think you need to reconsider not adding this preschool at this time. We are in a time where we need to cut things, not add. And if we are, Jenny keeps telling us that we need to stop deficit spending. And this grant and many, I didn't get to finish. Many other grants are not funded. We're taking money out of our funds. Thank you, sorry.
Thank you. Next, we have Cassandra Zamanis. I hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly. I am speaking on behalf of fellow teachers in RIM Unified, and the topic is salary.
Thank you. Yes. Good evening, members of the board. My name is Cassandra Zamanis, and I teach English at RIM High School, and I'm a resident of Twin Peaks. I'm here tonight not just as an educator, but as a member of the mountain community who is deeply disappointed in how this district is treating its teachers. I'm disappointed because how can this school board sit here and say that they value the outcomes of education, but not those who provide it? Schools can't run without us. There is no meeting standards without us. There are no after-school sports, no extracurriculars, no personalized education without us. There's no learning without us. We are teaching every single student enrolled at a RIM school to the best of our abilities every single day. And every day in doing so, we are uplifting our community in every way we can. Any claim on your part to support teachers without making reasonable and well-earned salary adjustments is lip service at best and downright insulting at worst. In September, we were told to expect a COLA of less than 1%. By January, the actual COLA was 2.43, with projections over the next 3 years showing increases of more than 3.5%. Your offer of a 1.5% COLA means it will be taking a pay cut rather than keeping up with livable wages. On top of that, we continue to face overcrowded classrooms, making it nearly impossible to give students the attention they deserve. It's frustrating to see research consistently show that smaller class sizes improve student outcomes, research that you are either unaware of or, even worse, choose to ignore. And yet those of us on the ground and in the trenches are left to struggle with overwhelming rosters. I'm mostly disappointed because we're not asking for anything extraordinary, just fair wages, raises that keep up with the cost of living, and class sizes that allow us to do our jobs well. I always knew that being a public school teacher meant I would never get accolades or widespread respect, and I was completely fine with that. I didn't realize that it also meant I would not be respected by my school board, and that's not something that sits well with me. We ask that you demonstrate your value of education by supporting those of us who actually provide it. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Dr. Kate Stahl-Covell, representing Valley of Enchantment Elementary School, and the topic is protecting LGBTQ+ students.
He's not on.
Okay, then we'll go to the next individual. Ashley Cheney, representing teachers of ROWUSD, topic RTA negotiations and other district issues.
Hi, good afternoon. My original speech was 10 minutes long, so I've had to cut it down a lot, and I will be sending an email to you guys with all of my points with explanations. My name is Ashley Cheney. I teach math at Rim of the World High School, and I'm a resident of Lake Arrowhead. I have experience teaching at 3 other districts throughout California, and I have heard my colleagues' experiences at nearby districts within San Bernardino County. And I agree with everyone when they say RIM is unique. During my 4 years here at RIM, I have constantly heard how difficult it is to hire and keep highly qualified teachers, classified staff, and administration. Throughout everyone's confusion on why this is, I have continuously brought up multiple issues to coworkers, administration, district staff, and board members that are reasons why people are choosing not to work in our district. And yet every time I do so, the response I get is, well, this is how we've always done it. Well, the way you've been doing it isn't working because the district enrollment is continuing to decline, our testing scores are not increasing, and you are still unable to attract highly qualified employees to our district. There are many teachers that live on this mountain that are choosing to drive an hour or more to teach in other districts rather than work 10 minutes from home. It's time that changes are made and excuses need to stop. The salary negotiations with RTA are a conversation topic every year. As we have stated every year during negotiations, our teachers' salaries are among the lowest in our neighboring districts and the districts that are similar in size, and yet we are not the lowest performing. Again, we have many teachers that live on the mountain, but they choose to drive down the hill to teach elsewhere because our salary is so low that it is a better financial decision for them to spend more money on gas and maintenance for their car for commuting rather than simply driving less than 20 minutes to work here. COLA this year is 2.5%, and yet the district is not even offering that. There are other districts and other public sectors that immediately pass COLA on to employee salaries. The employees are the consumers meant to receive COLA so we can afford our normal cost of living. The district is already given increases in the budget from the governor's yearly budget updates, and COLA should be reserved specifically for employee salaries. We currently have over 17% in reserve when the required reserve is 3%. In the 4 years that I have worked here, I have watched this reserve increase and increase every single year. It is apparent that there is a problem in the district's yearly budgeting if our reserve is continually increasing every single year. Yes, there is money for salary increases. No, there is no doomsday event where the district will suddenly not have money because that is claimed every year and it doesn't happen. Another issue is that our district refuses to accept all years of experience on the salary schedule when a highly qualified teacher transfers here. Also, many teachers cannot financially make the transfer here because our teachers do not receive their first paycheck until October 1st, almost 8 weeks after the first day of employment, when our surrounding districts pay their teachers on September 1st. And I'll email you the rest of my points. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Next, we have Savant Tuchman. Parents, student is, she lists her student's name, and the topic is a lack of evidence that RHS is enacting the necessary MTSS to meet the needs of all students and respond to these needs in a timely manner. Okay. And then we have Sydney McCook. Who are you representing? Teachers, and the topic is teacher compensation.
Hi there. Good evening, members of the school board and district officials. I Zoom before you tonight, not just as a teacher and a mother, but as a deeply frustrated and exhausted educator. We come before you because we are overworked, underpaid, and disrespected. And while we pour everything we have into our students, this district continues to show us, through its budgets and its actions, that teachers and students are not the priority. Organizations invest their time and money in what they truly care about. So I have to ask, where is that investment in us? We've seen professional development no one asked for, countless programs that were supposed to change teaching, but were abandoned a year later, multiple superintendents collecting paychecks at the same time, expensive lawsuits from both employees and families, and market research no one needed. And yet somehow there's never enough for fair wages, reasonable class sizes, or even basic respect. We are 33rd out of 33 districts in pay in San Gorgonio, dead last. If that doesn't tell you how little this district values its educators, I don't know what does. Are you hoarding money for the inevitable lawsuits because you can't keep an SLP employed? You end up contracting out, spending far more than if you had just given a raise? Now kids who desperately need speech services are stuck in front of a screen that likely aggravated their condition in the first place? Are you hoarding funds because you know another lawsuit is coming after employing a sexual predator? The reason we are here is the students, but somehow they are always the ones paying the price. And then, on top of it all, you have the audacity to try to lower my health care, the one benefit that actually made this job nearly sustainable. You call it a raise, but after doing the math, for some, it's actually a pay cut. For me, it's a whopping $200 more per year. That's $20 a month. Just enough to buy 2 dozen eggs. Is that all I'm worth to you? 24 eggs? Is that all these children are worth to you? The children that are under your care? The ones whose parents trust you to give them the best possible education? I've been through a lot on this job. I've been hit, slapped, and bitten, but this disregard for teachers and students is the worst injustice I have ever seen. Let's be clear. It is infinitely cheaper to retain experienced, talented educators than to constantly hire and train new ones. But when teachers are forced to work in impossible conditions for wages that don't even keep up with inflation, they leave. And when they leave, our students suffer, our fellow teachers suffer, and our schools suffer. So I ask you, what kind of district do you want this to be? One that values and invests in its teachers and students, or one that watches them walk away? We are not just demanding livable pay, manageable class size, and respect. We are demanding that this district prove through actions, not just words, that we matter. Thank you.
Thank you. I believe that's the last for our public comments. Okay. Moving right along, 8.3. RIM Teachers Association, RTA, representative, and California School Employees Association, CSEA. I see Mrs. Markovich. I also see on there. So we'll start with RTA with Amanda Markovich.
Okay, I can't start my video. Hopefully it starts.
There we are. Hi.
Okay. Hello, board members. I trust you are having a better month than the teachers of Rim of the World Unified School District are. I am not sure how many teachers are watching after receiving a message yesterday from the district that said the meeting would be moved to Saturday if there was inclement weather. A corrective message went out today, but you may want to post something on the door just in case people show up on Saturday. You may have heard the adage, trust takes years to build, seconds to break, and forever to repair. After the school district declared impasse in 2018, trust was completely broken between the school board and RTA. After many years, it felt like trust was being built back up, but after RTA received the board approved a proposal last month. The trust is gone. You, the school board, approved proposing a hard cap on our benefit in exchange for a 1.5% increase on the pay scale. Even though the government will be giving more than that for our cost of living adjustment that they entrust the district to use across all aspects of the budget, including salaries. You also approved a divisive offer to decrease class size at one level only if we increased it at another. The third thing offered was a very small amount off schedule, which may help cover our teachers' cleaning deposits for the new apartments they're going to need when they are forced to move and get jobs elsewhere. So thanks for that. I'm an economics teacher, AP psychology teacher, and a leadership teacher. I can view this methodology of this proposal in a few ways. First, maybe the board thinks the teachers they hired are dumb. As an economics teacher, I can tell you that only an extremely unintelligent group would entertain this offer as it results in a pay decrease. For some teachers, they would lose money immediately, and for others, it may take a few years. In fact, when I spoke to CTA about the offer you gave us, our representative thought you must surely have meant a hard cap for only a year. I told her I thought the board meant a hard cap forever. She couldn't believe that a school district or school board would even propose something so bad. How embarrassing. As an AP psychology teacher, I would say this proposal was a bullying tactic. And the offer to decrease one class size only to increase another was meant to split our members. As a leadership teacher, I would tell my kids that neither insulting people's intelligence or bullying was acceptable behavior. Our negotiating team expected to do normal negotiating this year. We go lower each time, the district goes higher each time, and we meet in the middle. This doesn't seem to be what is happening. The only other time that this didn't happen was when the district declared impasse in 2018. This year seems very similar to 2018, and I believe the district and school board want an impasse again. I remember how terrible that was. All the time away from the students, all the subs, all the long nights, the teachers no longer doing the little extras that management just expects them to do. I remember falling asleep on the floor of the district office with the CTA representatives. I remember the unnerving things we discovered when doing our research. I remember having to pay for half the cost of a mediator for a fight we didn't start or want. And I remember getting a raise that we hadn't even asked for, so that was the good part. In an effort to prepare myself for what seems to be the direction the board wants to go, I pulled out something, produced an impasse called the fact-finding binder. It's several hundred pages long. Some of you may remember the process of fact-finding. Our CFO was the same person then as we have now. One of our board members was on the board, and 2 board members were then teachers. I only got through a few pages of the binder when something caught my eye. A letter from the county, this one saying that our budget had been declined due to the 3-year projection showing the district to be insolvent. The letters from the county telling us to watch our budget aren't anything new. If we are always submitting a negative looking outlook at this budget at the start of the year, there's always going to be a letter. In looking at the actual financial reports that were submitted in 2016-2017, that's right before impasse, the district submitted a second interim report showing that the district had a $4.5 million deficit. By the time the unaudited actuals were reported for that same year, the deficit was only $536,000. It was a miracle. It's a difference of $4 million. Of course, what happened in the end was that the district had money left over to put in the reserve. This is the same cycle that happens every year, and I can't believe board members that have been around for as long as some of you have don't get it. I will send you the documents I'm referring to later tonight or tomorrow. Not much is different now, except the bank reserve, except back then, the reserve was only 9.1%, and now it's 19.7%. We are no longer in the declining enrollment we were in then. I can't remember if we were the lowest paid out of the 33 in the San G region public schools, but we are now at every step and column level. I don't know if all groups are being offered the same offer that we're given, cap the benefits for 1.5%. I know that all the groups usually get the same raise we get. It'll be interesting to see if management will be offered the same pay decrease that we're being offered. They also need a raise. If you hire people at the cheapest rate possible, you will end up with liabilities, a lesson RIM should know very well by now. What's the board going to do with their insurance? Are you going to take the cap as well? Will you actually pay to be on the school board? The last point that I want you to remind you of is most of the teachers in Rim of the World are not just stakeholders, we're also your constituents. Things don't have to be this negative, but it's hard to have good faith negotiations when there is no faith left. Thank you.
Thank you, Amanda. Julie Perkins, representing CSEA, please.
Thank you. Thank you for allowing me to speak on behalf of CSEA. It's been a struggle. Classified employees are exhausted. Workload, we have had tremendous more workload on our plates. I know this is a challenging time for the district, and we're working to find ways to address lower student enrollment. From what has been shared with classified employees, it is clear that we have a few years to find solutions before the surplus funds we received during the pandemic are exhausted. Speaking on behalf of all, and I mean all classified employees, I strongly believe that the solution needs to prioritize students and district operations. The passage of last fall's bond measure will help with operations, as it will also address maintenance and make our schools more attractive for the students and the families. But we also need to make sure that we have classified employees in place to support student programs and to maintain our school facilities. Currently, our district lacks some key classified student support and facility positions, including bus drivers. We are down 4 bus drivers. Our driver trainer not only is training, working 7 days a week, but is also driving a bus. She works so hard. We are down and we need to figure something out to help transportation. Not only bus drivers, but security, landscaping, and also our custodial workers. Under the last superintendent, a classified or classification study was conducted. It was only supposed to result in management titles being changed, but they also got raises. And while there is a new classification study currently looking at all classified employees, it is not clear that the study will result in addition of these badly needed position or in changes of raises for all of us classified employees. Instead, what's happening is we're taking away classified positions and we're adding more work to other classified employees, which we should not be doing. I am grateful for my job and for the raises that I've received over the past 4 years. However, the commitment to classified employees need to extend to offering compensation that will attract qualified new employees so that all positions will be filled and our students will benefit. While addressing compensation and filling positions will increase district expense, classified employees are a minority within the district. We know that. We're a number. We understand that, but we should not be a number. We are more than that. More importantly, attracting and retaining well-qualified employees to provide safe transportation, because while we're on Zoom, we have the snow day. Our bus drivers, it's not safe for them to be out, but transportation is so important to our district. Security services for our students and to maintain our facilities will make our schools safer, cleaner, and more attractive. In turn, this will help to attract new students while retaining those already enrolled. Thank you for giving me the time to speak, and I hope you heard us. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Perkins. Pretty sure we all heard you clearly. Thank you. So next we have 9.2 governing members. Does anybody want to kick us off?
One more, just one more.
Oh, is there one more? I'm sorry.
9.1.
Oh, 9.1, I'm so sorry. You're right. 9.0, reports and presentations. 9.1, student representative report. Ethan Smith, Rim of the World High School. Ethan.
Good evening. I apologize for my camera not working. It is not working on my Chromebook, nor is it working on this PC that I'm using. However, let's just get into the school report. Let's start with elementary schools. VOE kicked off the week with a book blast. We have partnered with Books Are Fun to see how many books we can put in the hands of our students. Our goal is that each student goes home with new books through the help of family and community support. Our fourth grade and SED class culminated their Southland Signs work with school-wide and parent performances. We are excited for the opportunity and look forward to next year's partnership. CHE recently wrapped up its Read Across America events, featuring breakfast with books and a charming door decorating contest. The entire Running Springs community voted, and congratulations go to Mrs. Lanier's second grade class for winning. They'll enjoy a pizza party courtesy of our PTA. A special thanks to the Seroptimists for their generous donation of dictionaries to our students. LAE closed out Read Across America with a New York Times bestselling author as our guest reader. Our students did an amazing job being active listeners and asking great questions. We will be hosting our Glow Crazy Party Friday, March 28th from 5 to 7:30, courtesy of PTA. Finally, we are holding our Trimester 3 Community Service Project, collecting Play-Doh for patients of Loma Linda's Children's Hospital in honor of Sienna Smith. Send to LAE if you're interested in donating until March 28th. Moving on to MPH. Level Up, our Mario Bros themed Coin Wars fundraiser was a smashing success. Sixth graders won the challenge, and in the spirit of good fun, staff and Mr. Gomes got absolutely silly stringed. Strumming into the future, thanks to the new ukulele purchase, our music appreciation class is excited about hitting all the right notes, literally. On the move, MPH administration and Mr. Fernandez visited fifth grade classrooms at CHE and LAE, building anticipation and excitement for their transition into the sixth grade. Next stop, VOE. We can't wait to welcome you. Game on. MPH students are gearing up for the attendance challenge with weekly shoutouts and end of tournament rewards on the line. We're about to see some serious commitment to showing up and showing out. Spring surprises. Due to the snowfall, our spring bloom dance has been rescheduled to Wednesday, March 19th, and the spring concert will now take place on Friday, March 21st at 4:30 p.m. Moving on to Mountain High School. Given the number of graduated and soon to be graduating Mountain High School students, in our latest credit check, MHS recently held its first annual FAFSA workshop designed to assist our graduating seniors in exploring free and funding. I'm sorry, I'm having a hard time reading this. Designed to assist our graduating seniors explore free and funding options for various post-high school options, including trade schools, military service, and community college. MHS extends our heartfelt gratitude to our dedicated school counselor, Mrs. Mills, for facilitating this important event, which has empowered our Eagles to take charge for their futures. With an impressive number of students motivated and ready to embark on their next journeys, we couldn't be prouder of their commitment and determination. RVA. Exciting news for our RVA community. We're thrilled to announce the launch of RVA Leadership 101, a dynamic group counseling program led by the amazing Mrs. Mills and her dedicated school counseling intern, Ms. Julia. This initiative is designed to empower students by fostering positive academic, social, and emotional behaviors through the development of empathetic leadership skills. Participants will explore the importance and of influence, effective communication, and integrity, crucial components for effective leadership in any setting. If you're interested in joining this transformative group, please reach out to your RVA teacher for more information. Let's inspire each other and grow together, RVA. Rim of the World High School. Next week, RHS hosts its WASC visiting committee for its accreditation visit. The visit runs from Sunday through Wednesday and will provide us the opportunity to showcase all the exciting things happening at RHS, as well as some student interviews. The sophomore classes will be hosting a spring fling dance on March 21st at San Moritz Lodge. We are excited to add another dance this year and looking forward to having a great time. On March 25th, RHS will host its annual open house and freshman orientation. RHS counselors visited MPH 8th graders this week to go over course requests. This event will give incoming freshman students the opportunity to tour our programs before selecting classes for next year. RHS leadership is hosting a March Madness attendance challenge. Each week, 2 second period classes will go head to head. The class with the best attendance will advance to the next round. The winning class will win donuts. Our high school internship is up and running. Our CTE students are being placed at businesses and agencies across the mountain, gaining valuable real-world experience. That first intern being Keegan Lyons of the graphic design CTE course. And that is it for the school update.
Thank you very much, Ethan. Now move on to 9.2 governing board members. Head Scott or Trustee Kraft?
Yeah, I'll start off. These are definitely every year it's the same thing, and it's tough. This district's tough to manage. We do not get the funding the same as anybody else, and believe me, we are looking for everything we can to try and fund this district and to properly represent the teachers and staff as they so deserve, because they are amazing and they do so much for this district. So I know the district office is also looking at cuts that we've talked about for the last few months, and there's going to be additional cuts to try and get everything we can for teachers. And I'm hoping we can come up with those numbers that are agreeable for each other. I'm very hopeful for that. It is always a tough time of year, every single year. And I'm hoping that you take that passion that I see and that commitment that I see. All these teachers do such a great job, and I hope the same conversation is happening with the state representatives as well, because the state does not fully fund us the way our neighbors get funded, and that is a sad truth. And I wish it was different. I'm hoping we can continue to do the things that we do that'll make things better. And it takes grace from both sides to try and make that work. And I commend everybody for their patience and understanding. So I'm not going to get too caught up in this, but it's every year. I like to address it every year and know that, to let you know that we're working hard to do everything we can. On the positive side, I did not get to, on the last board meeting, congratulate the girls soccer team. I thought they did an amazing job. It was so awesome to see that they did so well this year, and so I tip my hat to them. I want to also, of course, mention Christian Granger and Jedediah Jackson, who placed 5th in their age group states and did very well representing their schools. Wrestling, of course. And again, I just want to express my gratitude to the teachers and staff and their hard work, because yeah, I was a teacher, I was a student here, I was a teacher here, and our teachers are amazing. Our teachers are, I think, among the best in the state with, and I'll take that fight to anybody and represent them at any time. And believe me, we are doing everything we can to try and do what's best for you and our students as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Kraft. Trustee Malinger, would you like to speak?
Well, I think we're all probably going through various things in our lives. I know I've faced a lot of issues with death in my family and other things happening in the last month or so. And then now celebrating 50 years with the most beautiful bride that I can imagine. And we'll be celebrating that this next week as we have celebrated our anniversary. During this time, the one thing that I had the privilege of participating in was the dental seal-ins at Valley of Enchantment Elementary School, where we actually, with HAFTRA and Rotarians, actually sealed the teeth of over 70 students at Valley of Enchantment. It's really special. I got to help invite the children in and back to rooms, and it's just very unique, the number of people that we have, and that's that donate to and work within this community, try to meet the needs of students. Trying to not make comments about comments that have already been made tonight, but I would just say this, that I know we have board members who seriously look and say, what's the most we can possibly give to our staff in spite of the fact that we have limited resources. And it's really troubling how limited our resources are compared to some of our other districts around us. That said, I know thank you doesn't go far enough, but it is still what I know that every member of this board believes, is that we appreciate both staff, administration, and teachers. And everyone matters. And I just would say it troubles my heart when people say we don't respect you, because we do. So with that, I need to say thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Mellinger. Trustee Gardner.
Hi, thank you. I just want to thank everybody who spoke tonight and really poured their heart out. Thank you so much. I want to also thank you to everyone who has sent me a letter, an email. Unfortunately, we can't have that back and forth dialogue on the points in your letters because that would be negotiating away from the table, and I don't want to accidentally trip in it. So I just want to put out there that I read every letter. Thank you for expressing and detailing your concerns. In regards to advocacy and trying to change the dynamics of our funding, I mean, enrollment-based funding would help us. However, that conversation is still in a study mode and hasn't really gone beyond that. However, this week I did participate in CSBA Legislative Action Week. So we had meetings with Senator Chobog and Assemblymember Lackey. And then in the CSBA Legislative Committee, the big, huge push is for Prop 98, Governor Newsom is holding back $1.6 billion. $1.6 billion that belong with us, the local districts. He is doing that in case of inherent revenue risks. And when isn't there a revenue risk? But what that is CSBA believes, and so do I, that this is unconstitutional. And we are pushing really hard to have that maneuver that he's trying to do in withholding money from school districts, to push back on that and to reverse course. The other thing is in SANDABS, we had that's the other advocacy group, really pushing to make sure that we are having conversations with our congressmen to protect the funding streams from the federal government in this time of reorganization. So making sure that Title I, special education, Title II, Title III, those revenue sources are not being cut, that you may organize how you will, but protect those funding sources. And we are really pushing hard. I commend our CSBA Regional Director, Karen Gray, for having those conversations already with Congressman Obernolte. And his conversation and his points to her, where we are going to protect their funding streams, was reiterated by his field rep in SANDABS yesterday. We will be following up as SANDABS and as CSBA to definitely have those conversations to protect our funding and not the cuts. I know that may be like, okay, what's the fight locally here? But when you're talking about these pots of money, anything that's withheld from us or cut from us is potentially catastrophic for a district that doesn't have a high unduplicated count. of students, that we don't receive that supplemental concentration grant money that Scott's referring to. We don't have that high count that really makes an impact on our budget. So we do have to fight at those higher levels to protect our funding at a local level. Because right now, $1.6 billion from the state being withheld is huge. Title I and special education, if we get cut, it's a huge hit to our budget. So just putting it out there that we have to fight every day for our local districts at a higher level to make sure that our voices are heard and that we hold our state and federal legislators accountable for their actions. So that's what I kind of been the focus for the last several weeks. I am going to be part of the delegation from California that does go to Washington, D.C. the end of April for Coast to Coast. With all the reorganization in terms of talking points, it's kind of in flux. It's just based on what's going to happen in the next 5 weeks. So it'll be an interesting conversation, but as CSBA has said, this is one of the most important Washington, D.C. visits that we can have because of the turmoil right now that and the unknowns and the uncertainties, and just making sure that we fight for our funding streams. So I do have to say that I have to, just keep fighting the fight. When you go to soccer games and when you go on campus to watch plays and events and Leader in Me activities, or see how hard PTAs work to fund events and activities, you have to fight the fight on all levels, and keep doing it for the right reasons. So again, thank you all for sending me your emails. I'm sorry I can't go into lengthier dialogue with you. I would love to, but that would not be okay. That would not be okay with anybody. So don't want to step in it, but thank you. But I clicked the wrong thing. Clicked my video instead of my audio. Sorry, everybody. Duh.
No worries. Thank you, Trustee Gardner. I'll make my comment short. For starters, yes, I've also received those emails and replied best that I could. Do want to express, like everybody else has, the appreciation that folks have taken time out of their busy days to log on and talk to us about things. I think Scott spoke quite eloquently in terms of the fact that we are really working hard on your behalf. And I gotta say, sometimes it makes me sick to my stomach how we are getting shortchanged as a district. I look at a particular spreadsheet. Jordan and I are kind of weird that way. We love spreadsheets. Oh no, we're wonderful that way. Let me change gears on that. But to put it simplistically, we're getting about 80 cents on the dollar for the funding that we get from the state, where districts down the hill are getting about $1.20 on the dollar. So we're getting significantly less, and other districts are getting significantly more. And we have higher expenses. We have a snow day today. Other school districts, most of them throughout the state, do not have to contend with snow. We have labor costs, we have maintenance costs associated with snow, with weather. So that's an expense that's added on to our shoulders that other school districts don't have to carry. Along with that snow, we have more wear and tear on our buildings because of the weather. So that's incredibly challenging. We've also had, in my spreadsheet, there's information on transportation. We have much higher per capita transportation costs than most of the other districts in the county. Again, our funding is less. On top of that, we have in the past couple of months experienced quite a few power outages. We've had to get working generators on each of our school sites. Most other school districts do not have that additional cost. We are doing everything we can to provide a safe and thriving environment as our teachers and our staff do. We want to be able to make sure our students are getting the best possible experience with us, and we're working with less and less and less. And yes, it does make me sick to my stomach sometimes, because we're kind of in a stranglehold in terms of what we have available to us. And we're doing, I think, a better job of communicating out and trying to get more support elsewhere. It's just, unfortunately, the reality is right now we have less to work with and we have to do more. And so I can express as my appreciation to our hardworking staff. Julie Perkins described what was happening with our bus drivers. And I do know that we have people who are working tremendously hard. We have our administrative staff, our admins on campus, our clerical staff, our teachers, definitely. Top to bottom, they're loving on our students and giving their all to make sure our students have a tremendous experience. And that is so appreciated. It's seen and it's known. And I just want to make sure that you are being heard. It is being seen. As Nick mentioned, she sees us showing up. We appreciate what's being done. We love what our students are doing. My kids are a product of the RIM School District, and I couldn't be more grateful for the experience they've had and the community that they receive, the love of the community that's helped them be able to go out into the real world and thrive. So I'm saying all this just to say that it is appreciated. You're not invisible. You are being heard, and you have a school board who, top to bottom, side to side, cares. And that's just the honest to goodness truth. So thank you from the bottom of my heart. And I think I've said enough. Go ahead and close out with that. Moving on, 9.3, Superintendent, Dr. Paul Saviano.
Good evening, everybody. Been a year since I've been here now. So yeah, it comes pretty quickly. I also want to thank the staff and our entire community. We have an outstanding teachers, classified staff, management staff. We do a really good job here, very effective, and working with our community. We have a terrific community who supports us. I know that the board has worked extremely hard. They've had to make some really difficult decisions about budget. And we understand the impact of those decisions of budget, not just on the budget aspect, but on people. And we do care deeply about all of our staff. Just want to share a little bit about the background. Tonight there's a budget presentation by our own CBO tonight. And one of the things that we are taking action on also is budget reductions. And I want to share a little bit about kind of how we got here. The district really, and all of you have said, is underfunded by the state. And the funding mechanisms by the state are not equitable, and they need to be corrected. And our district receives less per student funding than many surrounding districts. We've also faced declining enrollment. We had one-time funds that have come to an end in COVID-19. We've had some increased operational costs as well. All of these factors have resulted in fewer dollars for the district. But the district took some action. We established a budget committee in April 2024. I want to thank many of the staff, classified and certificated staff that sat on that committee. We met over the course of the year to identify, reductions that don't impact the classroom. And I think that was a big priority for all of us. And so through these budget meetings, we looked at, how best can we make reductions while keeping our classrooms and our student achievement intact. The district will continue to reduce, and look at ways to reduce operational costs, save money, stabilize the district budget, and be more efficient with our resources. And we also want to provide compensation to support all of our employees. Our work is not complete. We'll continue to work together to ensure our district maintains a positive financial position, not just for this year, but for the long-term financial health and prosperity of our district. Thank you for that time. Thank you.
Thank you. 9.4, Education Services, presentation of the input from the LCAP, Local Control and Accountability Plan advisory meeting during the 2024-2025 school year to inform the 2025-2026 LCAP, Local Control and Accountability Plan.
All right, good evening, trustees and esteemed cabinet members. Thank you for the opportunity to share a little bit with you about our LCAP Educational Partners process. So what you see on your first slide there is kind of a short piece to share all of the different opportunities we look at to talk with our educational partners. I can say that as a mom of 2 RIM students, wife of a teacher, and the opportunity to be an administrator in our district, I am part of that process of being an educational partner and looking at the data of our LCAP, looking at the data that we've seen in CAST, that we looked at in the dashboard, and then from there, looking at those needs assessments at each of our school sites to determine, what our next steps are. And so when you look there, we're looking at parent, guardian, and community. We share all this information in our principals roundtables, information that goes out to our school site council, our PTAs. We have our student focus group, which we don't have favorites, but that's a really amazing group to see and to hear from our 11th and 12th graders. We work with our SELPA partnership. So as we're going through the process for the LCAP, we'll meet with our SELPA partner and review the LCAP to ensure we're supporting our students with special services. We provide that update to our DLAC, and then of course you've got the surveys that go on. You probably have seen multiple parent squares that share. Please share that information with your survey. So you've seen this slide lots of times, but just as a reminder that the educational partner review and review of data and input and feedback is a very, very important part of making the LCAP meaningful, making the LCAP align to our school plans and our SIPSAs, and it's just a really important piece that we are engaging all of our educational partners. So what does that look like in a timeline in a year? Essentially, we get our dashboard data, we get our CAST data in the fall, we review those pieces, and we start sending out our surveys and start those parent and educational partner meetings. Essentially, in January, we share that dashboard feedback, get that input. In March, February, depends on those snow days, right? Then we take a look at our needs assessment, our actions, our goals, and our services that we shared in the mid-year update. And we look at how we are responding to the needs of our district. The review of the draft LCAP does go before all those same committees, before it comes before you all in the public hearing in June, and then adoption in the late June meeting. These are some of the feedback pieces that we have. We also throw some QR codes out there. So when people come to our meetings, they've got easy access to share that data. I think the QR codes have been helping. We're seeing more responses this year than last year, probably by about 20 to 30, depending on the survey. So, which is really great. And the little flyer you see in the middle, again, that's how we are advertising, sending out our parent squares, really encouraging. So if you have a friend that would like to be on the LCAP committee, please share the details, share the QR codes, and share the flyer. And again, as we talk about what are some of the things that we share, again, you've seen several slides on the state measures and the local measures. We go into depth with our teams. It's interesting when you go through that information with the students, that they have a stronger awareness of their school and of their district. And they say things like, Mrs. Whiteside, I didn't know that there was data for that, or that this is my report card as a school, or how important the CAST is. So we'll look at that in a moment. You saw this slide during our mid-year update. It's also important data to share with students. How do we see a change? How does that change happen on the dashboard? Or how does the color change? And how do we see that improvement? And what are the things, the actions, and the expenditures associated with those improvements? So we review the data together. We look at the color change. We look at, what do we do from one year to the next? And so again, seeing that data of the change both in the distance from standard as well as in the color. And so based on those outcomes, we identify what are the areas of need, and we look to see from our families and our students and our community, what is their feedback? So this is the best part of the presentation, is finding out what did the students say. A student shared that they didn't know that the school district got a report card. It's interesting to see that a school district gets a report card as well. They said, we know that we get one, but we didn't know that the school got one. They knew that they take the CASP every year, but they didn't understand necessarily always the correlation or the importance of taking the CASP. One component that was repeated at our last student focus group was, well, Mrs. Whiteside, we don't see the test after 8th grade until we see it again in 11th. And so from 8th grade to 11th, we kind of forget about it. And that's really meaningful feedback from our students as we look at, and you'll kind of see noted in here, that we look at as site staffs, right? How are we providing information? How are we communicating that with families? How are we communicating that with students? How are we preparing for CASP, not just on the day, right? How do we backwards map that through our standards instruction? How do we support our students and incentivize that process? And so what you'll see is an example here, top here, kind of multicolored at the top, and looks like a rainbow. That's an example of one of our elementary schools and how they track diagnostic assessment throughout the year. So Charles Hoffman Elementary, they will look at every single student, of course, student names have been removed, to identify their programs and services and how they're doing on their diagnostics and common assessments along the way, so that they have a strong predictor of how these students are progressing, but also what interventions or enrichments they might need. It's important to also note enrichment, not just intervention, right? How are we supporting our students with areas of need for growth and to excel? Down here, you see a little picture of each of our school sites does a CASP training with their staff to talk about the importance of CASP, how to administer the assessment. But again, the details that our students, may not have a full grasp of. And then the top right corner there, you may have seen that in a parent square, an example of MPH getting little donations like the spin board. I hope I'm saying that right. I think you put your fingers on it and it spins around. But essentially the students have an opportunity through positive attendance and giving it their best on their assessment to be entered into that raffle for the little spin boards. So we're looking at how do we incentivize and support our students with why is it important? How are you preparing for it along the way? How does it demonstrate your progress? How is it preparing you for college, career, and beyond? The other major topic that our students talked about was iReady. iReady is a new diagnostic for our secondary this year. And so if you think about assessment with regard to CASP is once a year, the diagnostic is 2 to 4 times depending on your grade level. And then our common assessments are happening along the year to identify that standards mastery. So we have multiple layers of assessment and identifying how our students are doing. For iReady specifically, we look at what is your English and your math capacity to access the grade level content area standards, academic vocabulary and chemistry, US history, right? We have to identify how our students are doing in their reading and math abilities so that we know how to best support our students with intervention and enrichment. So interestingly, our students shared how iReady was going, kind of their thoughts about it, how long it took, but we're interested to know that it's one of the best predictors of your CASP performance that we have available at current. A few other topics the students talked about was AI. So artificial intelligence, they're always asking, how do I feel like I'm not cheating? How do I use it responsibly? How do I recognize that this is the future, but I want to do it in a way that if I go to college, I don't want to be accused of plagiarism, right? And so these were really great conversations from our high school students who said they want to be able to use it, but they want to be able to use it responsibly. So we're excited. We have a great presenter, Dr. Aguilar, coming from USC tomorrow for our professional development day. And we'll be presenting on artificial intelligence and making that meaningful in the classroom, as well as that responsible use that's associated with it. A few other topics they shared were things about engagement, what makes them excited to come into the classroom, what makes them excited to learn, and some of the opportunities that they appreciate, like CTE and the internships and different pieces to connect to college and career. Essentially, that's what our students have shared thus far. We have another meeting coming up. We just rescheduled it. I believe it's March 27th, which will be combined with the Social Justice Committee. So we'll be able to utilize our student voice. All right. So next piece is wanting to share with you our DLAC feedback. Our district English Learner Advisory Council, always great to hear from our parents and families across the board. Specifically with this group, they are looking at our English learner performance. One of their major questions was about iReady. As part of the reclassification process, iReady is our standardized benchmark for their English proficiency. And our English learner parents were looking for ways to help their students thrive on iReady at home. So the iReady learning path does go through 8th grade. So for the high school, it doesn't have that intervention path, but there are iReady resources specific to English learners. So even if you Googled iReady Central, you'll see iReady 4, and it has different topics like elementary, middle, high school, students with special services, English learners. And we have shared that information with our EL coordinators so that they can facilitate that out to their school sites. One other piece from our DLAC feedback was a request for parent engagement night specific to English learners. They want to get that connection to our school sites, but also while learning about the reclassification process, but also some of the basics of our schools. They want that connection and relationship with their schools, and they feel like they have it, but at the same time, they need that extra layer to feel like, who can I go talk to? Who can I connect with that I know, okay, they're going to know how to do short-term independent study if I have a unique need, or who do I call about an attendance concern or home hospital? And so it was interesting as they shared that. We did share that feedback already with our principals, and every one of our school sites is working with their EL coordinators on piloting an EL parent workshop by the end of the year, and then turning that into an annual EL parent workshop every fall. We typically want to see that reclassification happen by the end of fall before the next LPAC season, and LPAC's normally taken in February. And in fact, I think we have either 1 week or 2 weeks. I can double check that calendar and I'll get that date to you. But our first school that is going to be piloting their EL workshop will be CHE. And so I'll get you that date. The last piece of feedback coming from our educational partner committee meetings that happen here at the district office, and also through our surveys, that I would share with you the major themes that we were hearing from the surveys as well as from our meeting. We've had one so far. We've got another one that's just been rescheduled to March 19th, so we'd love to have you join us. First one was expanded learning opportunities and offering more after school, summer school, and targeted interventions for students who are falling behind. The exciting piece to that is our ELOP program is amazing. Oftentimes on the wait list, everyone wants to go to ELOP, and ELOP also kind of spills over, if you will, into summer school. We have piloted the high impact tutoring this year with all of our school sites. And in fact, 2 of our school sites did a cross-stage tutoring process where our MPH students who could take the bus from LAE are supporting LAE's high impact tutoring and then hopping on that bus and jumping over to MPH. So it's great to see those student leaders being part of that high impact tutoring. Next piece was classroom focus and teacher support. How are we supporting MTSS and interventions, as well as providing professional development for our staff, both around those positive classroom expectations, as well as instructional practices. Several PD components across this school year, and I know you've seen that in another slide, so I won't go into depth on all of those PD opportunities, but we continue those on a regular basis, and including our teacher leaders, including our administrators, and our educational partners in that process. Next piece is parent engagement and enrichment, looking for more opportunities to engage our community, which is so exciting that we have Jackie Benson, who has been our community outreach specialist, and supporting each of our school sites with writing their community schools grants. A lot of activities happening this year, like the mixers at RVA, the glow dances. I think there's 2 coming up, 1 glow dance, a couple of spring dances, really exciting events. And a huge thank you, of course, always to our PTAs who reach out and support and are always offering additional assistance, whether it's with getting excited about CASP, helping out with the dance, supporting our parents and families. And that last one there is student recognition. Our parents and families and community members shared the importance of recognizing our students' achievements. And how are we doing that through our award ceremonies, through our opportunities to recognize students for making positive choices. This year I was able to see MPH started the MPH Way, an acronym that was developed by middle school students, and they incorporated it into their award ceremony, and picked out students who demonstrated the MPH Way and positive expectations on the campus. Similar to like Leader in Me that you see here, they're sharpening the saw and put first things first, and forgive me if I don't remember every one of those. But really cool opportunities for students during Friday Flags to be honored. So those great opportunities. So essentially our family and community are looking for those expanded learning opportunities, the intervention, the PD, the community schools feeling, and of course that recognition and support to our families. So essentially that wraps up the feedback from those three entities. Any questions?
I have one comment, kind of a question. I find it pretty informative on what the students had to say as far as not fully understanding certain things. And I thought they put it pretty well when they're talking about how they don't take the test very often, so they often forget about it, and where our state requires the teachers to test the students and give that feedback immediately so the students understand it, yet our state does not do the same thing. And I wonder, what are we doing? I know there's certain things that have already been addressed here, but I wonder if you can address some of the things that are happening to help make this more relevant for our students.
Oh, absolutely. So you've got our, about this time of year, our administrators are going through their CAS checklist, right? Everything from their letters they send out that include things like, who are you dedicating your test to? Doing a practice test online or doing one in your classes. Dedicating your scores to someone important. Positive incentives with attendance and the spin boards and the different pieces like that. A steps for success night just on CAS. I think part of the piece to that, though, is getting that participation and that attendance at some of these events. And so that is where the support, I think, is really needed. When we take a look at what we need and how you get the word out there, how do you share that with students? We can do that in school. We can pick a class period. We can say, everybody's reviewing this during second period. But how do we also get that out to parents and families who we know are busy and are working and balancing sports and activities with their families? And so we send out our parent squares and we send out those engagement components, but we're always on the lookout for more ideas on how to make this engaging and how to bring in our families. And so that's, again, where like our PTAs are very helpful to create those incentives and support our families. So great question. And I think each school site has their own unique way that they go about that.
I think also, just to share, I know some principals are looking at establishing individual goals for students, in terms of how they can make those gains, and then what do they need to do to achieve those gains. So that's another way of that intrinsic motivation for students.
Exactly.
Also, Scott's question also kind of struck an idea for me of thinking about your presentation is student recognition. Are we doing anything in terms of student recognition specifically for CAS results?
That's a great question. And to the point that was made that we don't see those test results, right, until the fall, is how then do we pull that information so that we can still honor those students, for their achievements? Sorry, you said that.
Yeah, no, I don't have an answer. I mean, it might be nice as we gear up for the next round of CAS to somehow in the future look at ways to recognize students who performed particularly well in the previous year, and not just like high performers, but improvement, especially improvement, but having a way of being able to possibly highlight that. So there might be that could be a motivator potentially.
Yeah, if I may, maybe want to elaborate on tomorrow's activity a little bit.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So tomorrow we have multiple activities for the professional development day. We're actually kicking off with the AI and artificial intelligence. Then we're going to be jumping into Panorama and MTSS and connecting all those tiers, academic, attendance, behavioral, and how we look at that data on Panorama to identify specific student needs. You can even click on specific trends associated with attendance and academics, so that you can specifically identify students in need of additional support. And in fact, the high school has already started some of those components, not just specific to CAS, but in terms of starting to identify the data like a needs assessment, like we do with the LCAP and with the SIPSOs, is identifying areas of need to provide areas of support. One thing we saw at the recent iReady training, it's a week or two ago, is they have growth and goal sheets that can be done with the students, where they identify their diagnostic on, the previous diagnostic, what their score was, and hoping to achieve a minimum of a 19-point gain is on average what they're looking to see. How we might, replicate that for CASP to say, because we can pull up those scores and say, here was your scaled score last year, and how might we look at setting a growth goal? I was in a classroom last year who was administering iReady, and the teacher made sure to identify for every student what their previous diagnostic was, and every student in that classroom set a goal. And then they jumped into the diagnostic. So it was real and it was immediate. And how might we transfer some of those strategies to CASP?
Maybe highlight Mr. Massey's.
Oh, yes. Sorry, jumped ahead there. Mr. Massey from San Bernardino County Superintendent of Schools, he oversees data and assessment for the county. He came and spoke with our principals roundtable about the local assessment project and looking at our beginning of the year, middle of the year, and end of year diagnostics and how we see those growth gains. But he's going to be coming in to share tomorrow how we connect what we're doing every day to the common assessments, to our diagnostics, and to the CASP. And how do we do some of those things that are going to create that intrinsic motivation for our students to show and to demonstrate why is this important? And how do I get myself on track and prepared if I haven't seen it since 8th grade and I'm an 11th grader? It's interesting how they take it for 3rd through 8th, and then all of a sudden they have a stop, right, for 9th and 10th and jump back in at 11th. How do we keep that positive momentum for the students, with all the things on their plate? So we're excited about tomorrow and connecting. Essentially, we're talking about connecting GVC, common assessment, and data literacy to the CASP, right? And how do we encourage and inspire our teachers in the classrooms who are the closest to supporting our students with making those growth gains?
Cindy, do you have any questions or comments?
No, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, 9.5, Educational Services, presentation of the annual Title I report for the 2024-2025 school year.
Right, good evening, trustees and cabinet. Thank you for the opportunity to share with you about our Title I report and presentation. You have 2 documents here. One of them is a copy of the presentation. The other one is a report that kind of breaks down in more detail your Title I supports and services, and essentially an analysis in brief, since we've already done a pretty in-depth analysis of our data. And so I'm going to kind of jump around a little bit, but just tying in Title I to our LCAP, it is one of the areas where we identify how are we utilizing our Title I funding. As Trustee Gardner shared, how important our Title I funding is, and that we utilize it in the best way to meet the needs of our students. So the goal of this presentation is to share our Title I report. And to look at the district as well as school site actions that are associated with their Title I funding and across the board at the district level, and how we connect those dots. Essentially, that's what you're hearing today quite a bit, is we're connecting the initiatives that we're doing to make them most meaningful. So at the district level, we call it the district set aside of Title I, and essentially the things that we prioritize with the district Title I funding. And so what you can see here is essentially the initiative on the left and successes on the right. That first one being iReady. We have committed to utilizing that diagnostic across essentially 1st grade through 12th. We do have a 4th diagnostic window that we've added to the school year that our teachers recommended we use for kindergarten, but not till the end of the year. So we could get a good idea of where kindergarten students are at the end of the year. So that 4th diagnostic, which will be in May, we'll look at kindergartners at the end of the year and then going into 1st grade. So successes you're seeing with iReady, essentially on the next slide. We are currently in the 3rd window. of iReady. You're hearing a lot about iReady because, again, we want to show our commitment to demonstrating, supporting our students with English and math proficiency. We can't access the grade level and content area standards if we don't master that English and math proficiency. And so what is exciting to share on that next slide is based on our 3 diagnostics thus far, we have seen 74.7% of our students show a gain across the beginning, middle, and end of year in reading. And it's 76.7% of our students have shown a gain in math. Now, iReady and John Massey from the county, who we're going to hear from tomorrow, has shared, based on his research as well, that iReady is one of the best predictors of what the CAS performance will look like. And so it's really great to see that we have that large amount of growth and gains that are happening just in this first year of full implementation across all of our grade levels.
Can I ask a clarifying question with that, that growth? Is that relative to not just what they've learned, but that they're performing at a higher level proportionally than they were previously? Is that
right? So it's showing essentially it is a lexile growth in reading, and then you have a quantile growth in math. And so that's showing that over the beginning of the year, middle of the year, and then end of year diagnostic. The great thing about those diagnostics, and having also been a parent, I put my 5th grader on iReady at home. So based on how he scored on his diagnostic, it's going to give him specific lessons associated with the domains of reading or of math that he demonstrated a need for support with. So it's giving him that intervention where we can go on it at home, go on it on a snow day, go on it and give him an opportunity to continue that growth.
so that means that with that, they're performing closer to grade level than they were previously. As their grade level is progressing, they're closing that learning gap.
They're closing that learning gap as we are seeing those growth and gains. And that is the goal. And the really great thing that when you look at the iReady screen and they're on their path, it gives them their diagnostic score. And it's really easy to see when you're creating a growth goal and you're ready to take the next diagnostic. So even though our window just opened on Monday, I know we've had a lot of snow and other things this week, but they have till the end of this month to finish their math and their reading for iReady for this 3rd diagnostic. So we're really excited to see once that 3rd diagnostic closes, there will likely be even more gains. So it's really exciting. iReady is one we kind of talk a lot about because it's something that's new across our whole district. Our elementaries have had it for a couple of years now, but having it across the board, we've also learned that there's a standards mastery component to the contract we already have. And our middle school and elementary grade levels, so essentially grades 2 through 8, are going through their GVC, the Guaranteed and Viable Curriculum Release Days, to identify common assessments through iReady, which would give them an opportunity to have both their diagnostic score and their standards aligned core content area score within the same platform. And this was based on some great work we've been doing with Solution Tree at MPH, and then sharing, hey, this is available, and looking through that with our teachers to get those collective agreements. So we are moving that much closer to that common platform for common assessment grades 2 through 8 in the same platform as our diagnostic. So forgive me, took a little bit longer on iReady. That's one of our district initiatives. One of our next, which you've heard me talking in great length about, is our instructional coaches. We couldn't do this great work without them. I have to give huge kudos to Mr. Wallace, Mr. Longtoe, and Mrs. Berteau. They do just a phenomenal job pulling together our grade level teams. I know you've heard us talk about that. We started that last year. We're continuing that work. And that is all through the Educator Effectiveness Grant, which has 1 more year of funding next year. And next year, we're planning on pulling back together our instructional support team. You've probably heard it in the past, IST or Curriculum Council, so that we can take those collective agreements from the grade levels and then bring our grade level and departments together to start continuing our agreements about, common assessment platforms. What does it look like in grading practices, communication, and different things like that. So huge kudos to our instructional coaches. Also in that one, you see our mental health support. Title I does support our elementary counselor as well as a portion of our high school counselor. And then GATE, we are working with our team to continue to grow our GATE program. We currently have enrichment opportunities that are embedded within our school sites, but we would like that to be a more robust program. So we are redefining our GATE process with a committee to be inclusive of STEM. And in fact, we have a demo with UC Davis STEM on April 8th here at 4 o'clock here at the district office. We're going to be demoing a platform to expand STEM and see how we can incorporate that into some of our GATE enrichment and planning. Remaining initiatives with our Title I funding. Avant is a testing platform. You've heard of the seal of biliteracy. Last year, we had 24 students who earned that seal of biliteracy. Avant is the platform that makes that possible for us to assess. Our parent and family engagement, a portion of that is paid for through our Title I. So getting those parent squares out there, our Kelvin surveys, as well as our Care Solace commitment to supporting mental health. We do fund and have that great commitment to our AVID program. Our district Title I does fund one section at RIM High and MPH. And we've seen great successes out of our AVID program. essay winners across the board. You have seen the 4-year university data at 86% last year. The college trip that they go on, the 5-day trip at the high school, the 1-day trips that they'll go on at MPH, that AVID program really advancement via individualized determination, preparing our students for the future. Then our foster homeless liaison, again, supporting our CWA and our attendance and McKinney-Vento efforts. And then finally, one coming up soon here is, as we're looking at our learning continuity plan, and expanding 2-to-1 access to technology. We have a board agenda item up today for your consideration for expanding Chromebooks to grades 3 through 5. So if we're going to ask families and parents to have access and go on their iReady learning path at nighttime and support their students, having that technology at home is a huge benefit. So that's another key component with our Title I. Any questions on the district level? So far, okay. Now I know at the school sites, I've given you a general overview for each site, and I'm going to click quickly through those because I know you have that in front of you in both the report as well as the presentation. But what you'll see highlighted at each of the sites is their parent engagement workshops. For example, the English learner one we talked about, how they're using their Title I intervention aid to support intervention supports and services, typically in the afternoon through our kindergarten teachers who support that. Different platforms that they'll utilize to support. So you might see like Alexia or a Raz Reflex. You might see IXL Learning at Mountain or RVA. So as I'm kind of clicking through and you're seeing those, essentially your Title I is really looking at how am I providing supplemental supports and resources in my core subjects, English, math, science, and history. How am I providing that Title I intervention? How are we supporting our MTSS, our multi-tiered systems of support? How are we providing engagement workshops to bring in our families? Things like the science night at VOE and how you can combine an open house with a science night and highlight student learning. And so each year they look at their successes and identify what is working through their SIPSA cycle, just like we do with the LCAP. And they align and identify how are they going to continue to make those growth in student learning through those various supports academically and through MTSS and parent and family engagement. So again, you're seeing kind of a trend in each of those. So I'm going to kind of just click through. So if you have a question specifically about any one of those, happy to support. Many of our school sites, once our learning recovery block grant tutoring concluded, they've transferred over to utilizing Title I funding so that they could continue their supports. But it's great also to see the pictures of the students. This is why we're here. This is why we do this great work, and to see our students thriving and be engaged in those great things like AVID, being supported with MTSS and learning the MPH way, getting those cubby coupons or those Rocky rewards and feeling like I make a difference, I'm doing something great in my school. And then those softwares that are supporting them with that. So again, you kind of see some examples with those different softwares at Mountain and RVA. And again, we are looking at expanding some things like you see link crew coordinator in some of our community schools, not specific to Title I, but we are looking at where we continue to expand that. Like you heard in a previous presentation of looking at how we will include where everyone belongs, which is the middle school link crew version of bringing students in and making them feel like student leaders and valued members of their school and taking that ownership. Essentially, that is your Title I report. Any thoughts, questions, or wonderings?
Cindy, any questions?
No, sorry.
No, it's okay.
Tony came in, he cleared our driveway and I was in the other room so that you wouldn't hear the snow blower. So now I switched back to my office. So sorry about that. I was listening. I'm just saying.
I didn't mean to put you on the spot. I just want to make sure that you had a chance.
No. I got it. I am excited about the iReady. I just have to say, really excited about the tools that are embedded within iReady. So, yeah, that was exciting data to see, Mrs. Whiteside.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Moving on to 9.6, business services from the World Education Fund presentation of checks. I think probably because of weather, they are not here. We will table this to a future meeting. 9.7, business services, update of budget and enrollment report by Jenny Haberlin, Chief Business Official.
Hey, hello, thank you very much. It's nice to get up and move around since there's no heat. I have to get some feelings in my fingers, so hopefully I can turn the pages, but I'll be able to get them warmed up. Okay, thank you for having us tonight, and it's this time of the year, March, that we report on the second interim financial report. And I'm going to go fairly quickly through my slides because a lot of the information we've had a lot of dialogue about. You're well informed on the budget cycles and our reporting cycles, so I don't need to, I know it's good for the audience who's on YouTube or in here with us to help inform them, but I know that in the sake of time too, I'll go very quickly. But please let me know if you have any questions. Yeah, I'm warming up. Alrighty. It's going. Good. Is it on? Let's see.
Changed.
Do I have to like?
You're good. You're good.
Okay, good. It changed. All right. I think it's turning it on and off. Okay. Thank you. Okay, this is just kind of why are we here, and then what is the purpose of the report? And one of the things that kind of is going kind of along with this report this year is the additional requirement by our county office to approve a budget fiscal solvency resolution, which along with the second interim financial report is also included on the board agenda tonight. We have had to address a resolution like this in the past, but usually it's around budget development. But gearing up to, evaluating whether or not a district would need to file a third interim report is, as the county does their oversight and review of the budget. So along with the second interim financial report, the resolution is in your agenda as well to approve or not. So, and we'll get we'll see that later on the discussion action items and consent. The budget, we have what we're presenting for you today is a positive certification of our budget. That means that we have a positive ending fund balance in the current and 2 subsequent years. although we look at a budget in a 5-year cycle. A small school district with declining enrollment, our county requires us to do so. It's also prudent to do so, to look at a 3 to 5 year budget, especially on the operations and staffing component of the budget. But in the current cycle, which is the 24-25, 25-26, and 26-27, we have a positive ending fund balance. Okay, going to move forward. That's just our district board goal. And one of the things, we're kind of in between 2 reporting cycles for attendance right now. We have not received all of month 7 from the sites. Scott White in my office will still need to audit those. And so we're, at every couple board meetings, we're kind of in between the 2 cycles. So we'll have, we may have 2 months actually to report to you in April by then. But just looking at the draft of month 7, including LAE's special ed preschool, which is not, we usually don't include that class in our budget and enrollment because there's not ADA attached to it. But we have 2,906 students currently. Like I said, that's a draft because it's unaudited at this point from my office. And I wanted to highlight one of our largest classes that we have in the district right now, which is our grade 12. Our 12th graders, and how we use this data, it has multiple uses because our enrollment, of course, gets turned into ADA on average daily attendance. That projects our revenue and also helps us project our staffing. So as we go through each year, we can look at 6th graders becoming 7th graders or 3rd graders becoming 4th. And there are different staffing ratios along with that with that enrollment balance. So, we want to, that ties into our position control on how many, on the certificated staff side of the house, how many employees do we need for the students. So it just kind of highlighting, you can see every few years, we do have one class that's a lot larger than the others, and some years they're maybe males are heavy on females, and we kind of watch these classes as they kind of go through our district.
Jenny, that also sorry. Is it happening?
No, don't.
That also does vary, correct? From year to year and from class to class, as I think the big significance is as they enter 9th grade, 8th and 9th, then it goes up significantly. Well, not significantly, but there's a measurable.
So our 6th grade class, our 5th graders going to 6th grade, we tend to find enrollment drop. Students leave our district and then come back in the 9th grade. And we, part of our staffing meetings that we have with principals, we were talking with Mr. Hansen and Mr. Willemsey, and I were talking about his master schedule. And really that year over to year average is we see that about 30 student drop and about 30 student regain as 9th graders. So preparing for that 9th grade class is something we've had to get used to also, and not because then we have had years where we've had to kind of rush to accommodate that, and then going into 10th grade is a different that's even a tighter master schedule going into that 9th and 10th grade year. So yes, we work on that, and we look at that also.
Thank you.
So looking at that prior slide, it looks like it's potentially, we have such a large 12th grade class that you have highlighted, larger than any of our other years here. So it's very possible that we'll see an enrollment dip next year if we're not able to have an incoming kindergarten or / TK class that's in the mid 200s.
Yeah, we're right now projecting probably a flat at best enrollment. Okay, the financial statements include the current year and 2 subsequent years, and And the 2 subsequent years are projected using a variety of assumptions. And I listed the major assumptions that we use, mainly step and column for all units. We update our other state and federal revenues, we post carryover, we recognize our trend in ADA ratio, any increased PERS costs, any savings we might know that's coming in a future year, and then we project increases for operations such as natural gas and electricity.
So question for you as far as step and column. So column is talking about like if a teacher takes classes or something such that they move over to a higher pay scale.
Correct.
And then step is years of experience.
It is years in our district, yes.
So from one year to the next, they're making more money, right? So,
Yeah, it's the salary schedule isn't completely squared, so not every step, and that's really from probably 30 years. There was differences in the salary schedule, and that takes several years to kind of square it up. So it's not exactly 2%, 2%, 2%. There's years because I'm going back probably 20 plus years where there was big blocks of time where you didn't move a step, and then they had longevity built in. And part of, even before I was in my position, part of some changes to that seniority was collapsing some of those longevity, placements. And so it's not completely square, but you can usually like a 2 to 3%, from one step to another.
from one step, so from one year
But
to the
not for
next.
every step.
Not for every step, but like for the first 15, 20 years. Of,
You know what? I didn't bring that with
No,
me.
that's fine.
I'd
Okay.
have to like.
I do believe it does plateau in certain areas and
Yes.
then make
Yeah.
bigger jumps in other areas, and as your education gets greater as well. But, I'm sure the teachers are looking at that as I did all the time, trying to get my steps when I could and would go over in the columns as necessary.
And one of the things that we're required to do is we're required to calculate step and column, both on the unrestricted and the restricted side of the budget. So only because if we have staff that's funded, classified and certificated with restricted funds, we want to be able to project that step and column and potential increases in STRS, PERS, health and welfare on, to ensure that we would have enough grant funds to sustain if it's a multi-year type of restricted grant.
Are they still required? I know for a while, anyways, teachers were required to submit anytime they were expecting to reach those column jumps.
Personnel handles that. I do know that they have a process on when they turn in units, and then Mr. Hansen and Mr. Haley, coordinate that and recalculate the column placement. And they once because our personnel database is through the county system, is connected to payroll, any change in the personnel database. So if they've recalculated units and moved a column, that naturally flows. The system does it for us into payroll. My payroll specialist will receive an alert and it'll recalculate that teacher's pay warrant. So that alleviates, as long as the input is correct up front, it kind of flows naturally into payroll. So.
Hey, Jenny, can I interject real quick? Hey, we do that on a quarterly basis, Scott, and it's usually a 2 to 3%, as Jenny said, going across the pay scale. But we do credit checks on a quarterly basis, and we send that out to staff members. And if they come in the middle of a quarter, we retro it back to the beginning of the quarter. So it's usually 2 to 3 on a quarterly basis.
Thank you.
This is just a picture's worth 1,000 words. The increases each year in PERS and STRS costs. You can see that STRS has plateaued to pretty much a set amount per year, and PERS fluctuates a bit.
So actually, if you can help me understand that 19.1, is that a percent? What is that?
That's 19.1%.
So, whatever, that's for STRS would be for a teacher for whatever their salary is?
Yeah, so
Then on top
24-25 school year, for every dollar of payroll, 0.1% of that is for the employer's contribution to STRS, and for classified, the 24-25 is 27.05.
And that's up a little bit, okay.
Yeah, and so then you also have workers' comp, you'll have unemployment, for Medicare, on the classified side, you'll have Social Security on top of those. So. All right, these are just the estimated and actual COLAs. And you can see that in the 22-23 year, when we had the super COLA, that was the governor's attempt to add dollars to the base. 23-24, now 24-25 is hovering, at 2.43. I'm sorry, that's for 25-26, 2.43. For 24-25, it was 1.07. Is our COLA for this current year. In 25-26, it's estimated to be 2.43, but we will know the exact dollar amount, of course, when the governor adopts his budget in June, and we'll get an idea of that at the May revised workshop. We, are looking at probably staying in the flat twos and, having to adjust those COLA numbers in the out years from the current threes into more of the two range is what we're being told, but we'll find more information out on in May.
Jenny, just in regards to COLA, one of the talking points for CSBA Legislative Week was making sure that the COLA of 2.43 is fully funded, because there is talk of it possibly being reduced. And so that is one of our talking points to try to make sure it is fully funded at 2.43.
Let's keep up that discussion for sure.
Yes.
The next slide is just our year-over-year amounts in total LCFF dollars. This is total LCFF dollars, which includes base, supplemental, concentration, our transportation add-on, and our TK add-on. So these are in totals. And what portion are property taxes versus state aid. We do have a high percentage of our total revenue coming from our local property taxes. And so how that's a benefit to us is it benefits us on cash flow. Not necessarily, we still get the same dollar amount regardless if we had zero property taxes or not, because that calculation of how much a district gets is calculated, and then whatever property taxes are earmarked towards education for the basic funding for ADA, the state aid makes up the difference. So if we had a year where taxes came in at 10 million or 20 million, the state aid would just either be reduced or make up that difference. And one of the things you can see too, in years that we had a funded COLA, I'm going to pick on this year, 24-25 in the top right-hand corner, our 1.07% COLA. Year over year, dollar amount changes for LCFF, you can see it's actually negative 1.86. So year over year changes, when you think about COLA, you need to think, instead of thinking about it in a percent, you need to equate it into dollars. And what does that mean for districts year over year change in total LCFF? So going into 25-26, if the COLA remains at 2.43, our year over year, assuming that all ADA and assumptions would stay the same, and including unduplicated student count, that the year over year increase is 1.72. So if you just understand that that's an increase in actual dollars and not necessarily an increase by the percentage wise. This is an illustration of the components of total LCFF. And the next few pages are just our multi-year projections in summary form, separated but unrestricted and restricted dollars. You can see we've made notes on what major categories are, would make up things like federal revenue or other state revenue, and the type of grants or funding streams that go into those categories. And there's a breakdown of our projected expenditures. These are budgets, what we're budgeting towards the end of the year. We'll revise the budget again. This is our revised budget through January 31st. We're already working on, as we, make some purchasing cutoffs and deadlines. We'll have an idea of what restricted dollars we have left, and be able to adjust those. Next opportunity to adjust the budget to actually turn into the county would be part of our estimated actuals during budget development. So that'll be really almost like a third interim way to look at the budget. We are having an ending fund balance that's positive, both on the unrestricted and restricted side. And the 25-26 estimates also include the potential savings for the resolutions that are on the agenda tonight. Now, some of those resolutions will have fallout in this current fiscal year, because they are part of vacant positions that we aren't going to fill, assuming we pass this resolution. So some of the savings will actually fall out in this year, and the savings is represented in total, but it will cross 2 fiscal years for the actual cash. Okay, going into 25-26 and 26-27. You can see the amount of deficit spending that's projected and our ending fund balance. Like I said before, we're projecting we're submitting a positive financial statement. But going into 27-28 and 28-29 is when we're projecting a negative fund balance. Our graph of our total expenditures as budgeted as of January 31st. And the deficit spending in the graph form, and then the unrestricted ending fund balance by year going into the 27-28 school year. Okay, there's components of our ending fund balance. And so because we've had some funds set aside from the sale of the Blueberry property, we had the Grandview insurance a claim that we bought out. We have some matching funds for our COPS project, when there is a COPS project on the agenda for you tonight, because we're rapidly trying to spend the rest of those dollars by June 30th. And then we have our Medi-Cal MA that we use. We hold those funds, and then we actually offset general fund expenditures with our health aides and our nurse as we can each year, depending on what we bring in. And then our mandated, of course, 3% reserve. And then another look at the projected subsequent years deficit spending. Okay, just some pressures on the district budgets, similar to what other school districts like RIM all over the state are feeling, mainly rising special education costs, and the increase in the student count, which has gone up drastically in our district. Increased health and welfare costs. There's a new legislation that will, if enacted by our legislator, could have a negative impact on personal and business health insurance rates because there'll be mandated coverages that are currently optional by insurance companies right now. So the insurance industry is bracing for having to incorporate those into their coverages. We do have flat enrollment, which has some challenges of their own because kids usually aren't in a pretty little, packages and it's not, and staffing becomes sometimes a challenge, sometimes not. Lower ADA to enrollment rate, like I said, district-wide also, or statewide, the post-COVID attendance rates have rebounded a little, but we're not near the statewide averages before COVID. So, and we're expectation of a reduced COLA. There's continued apportionment deferrals, but because of our cash flow, we project cash flow for 2 years. We used to only look at it for a year. Now we're looking at it 2 years out. And we're not projecting any cash deficits at this point, even with the deferrals. So we could have applied for an exemption of those deferrals, but we wouldn't have been able to substantiate need for that. And then elimination, of course, of one-time funds, both state and federal, realizing that in the governor's proposal, there is some proposals for continued one-time funds, learning recovery block grant, which was reduced, but the state didn't reallocate those dollars. Reallocating them under the learning recovery block grant, looks like it's going to happen. Okay, so we have just some, I'm not going to read word for word here. One of the things we want to focus on is reviewing, of course, our revenue and expenditures as we look at the 25-26 state budget that will be approved. We want to identify any funding shifts of new dollars, but we also want to see what restricted dollars can be used to address our fiscal concerns. We do this anyway, but at this point, I think it is something that we can really spend some more time on trying to identify something that we're currently doing that may fit within a restricted budget, and always giving those a second and third look. We want to monitor our attrition and evaluate operations in all of our district areas. And then we want to, of course, prioritize school sites and the impact of the classroom while working on solutions to reduce our expenditures. And we talked about that a little bit today earlier. Okay, we're going to continue to monitor enrollment as we staff for next year, sweep and scrutinize any expenses as we close out this current year. We'll start building the 25-26 budget, and then we'll continue collaborating with our partners and develop a fiscal solvency plan and a budget next year that will hopefully get us on the path to reducing our deficit spending. And that's it. Any questions?
Yeah, I just have a comment because tonight I was kind of reminded of when we did go to impasse and how hard. I want to remind everybody that was really hard on you. It was tough on a lot of people. And I want to just remind everybody that we're a community. I think our union is so much better than it was back then, and their civility and understanding that they do have. And I just want to remind everybody we need to keep that in mind because it's tough right now and it's a tough moment in time, and we don't have the funding, we don't have the budget that we wish we had just last year, so, but I want to thank you for all you do, and you do an outstanding job. So thank you for that.
Thank you. No.
Face turns red.
It'll warm me up, right? Just embarrass me some more.
10.0 discussion/action items. 10.1 superintendent legislative and advocacy report, fiscal impact none. I think we need a motion for this.
So moved. Second.
How about some discussion?
Well, I'm just going to go ahead and jump in. What I did this month is in your board documents, I put in the SANDAB's federal advocacy report, the report of bills, and then the March report where SANDAB's took action on a couple bills. But this month, per what our board has been requesting, is what bills do we want, you asked for my opinion. So these are some of the bills that are top discussions in CSBA Ledge Committee, in SANDABS, and would definitely impact us. So I put into the board docs, Rim of the World Unified School District advocacy, the bills that I would recommend that we move forward in terms of a support position. And we can, obviously tonight we would not vote on this, but this is what I'm proposing. AB 1111 is the EV bus bill that is CSBA is developing and is sponsoring. And really what it's doing is pushing back full implementation of the EV bus program from 2035 to 2045. The CSBA task force, they did a survey. They've collected that. There are some issues in the implementation. One of them is infrastructure. One of them is the supply chain, getting the buses in time. The other one is that districts that do have EV buses, they may be small and contained and flat in their area. But what they're finding is that when they do long field trips or their athletics go far, their EV buses are not able to make the round trip. They have to use their diesel buses. For us, we've had this discussion before. You guys can get some, Jenny, go ahead and pop in on this. For us, infrastructure, where are we going to put the buses, all these different, the fact that right now, as it's snowing, trying to get a bus across our topography or up the hill with the heat turned on and pulling all that power and draining the charge is problematic. And so we need the technology to catch up for our needs, and other districts the same. So I'm recommending that we support this bill. AB 1224, teacher credentialing. Shannon, you can pop in on this one. This is a big one. During COVID, we were able to allow long-term subs to go from 30 days to 60 days. And so the ask is that we go ahead and extend from 30 days to a 60-day period of time for our long-term subs to be in the classroom, which creates sustainability. It creates continuous learning from one person, and especially subjects that are hard to get a sub in that can actually teach the subjects, such as physics or biology or chemistry, that kind of stuff. So SANDABS took a support on this bill. And so I think this is really, especially for rural districts, this is super important because we already have issues with getting subs. Then last year we discussed, when we worked with Senator Joe Bogue, about her ask from us that we support her bills that we can in terms of relating to education. And she has, her field rep brought up two bills in SANDABS, SB 389, which basically is going to allow an LVN nurse to be able to work with our nurse, to work under our nurse, with our nurse. Super easy peasy, bill. Another one is SB 835. We use the advanced placement program. Other school districts use IB. Other school districts, I'm sorry. Oh, sorry. I thought I heard the Cambridge International Education Program, which is along the similar lines of AP and IB. However, the Cambridge International Education This bill would explicitly add this to the examinations to the list of authorized assessments that may be used to measure pupil academic growth for a principal evaluation. So she's trying to just level the playing field. There is pushback on this bill from the AP/College Board. You can assume your own reasons why, but she's just trying to create a level playing field for districts that are using these advanced course curriculums for rigor. So those three bills, I would recommend us to really look at supporting. In terms of bills that I would say that we could take a look at opposing, one of them is AB 887. CSBA took an opposed position. This would require computer science course. And that's not just, oh, here, this is how you do an Excel spreadsheet. What the concerns are in terms of adding a computer science course to a high school is the fact it's yet another course that takes away from an elective or takes away from a choice to take a CT pathway course or an AP pathway course. That it also causes inequity. EL students in ELD programs, when they finally exit, they would have yet another required course to take that would impact their ability to take something like either CTE or arts or AVID. Some of the students express they want to take AVID. So it's really tough to have legislators start legislating our curriculum. This should be a local decision on what we offer based on student interest and based on our needs. And I just think that we need to start as local districts putting a line in the sand and saying, you know what, we will look at our master schedule, which is highly impacted. The other discussion point is you have somebody that can really teach, can really teach computer science. In some districts, this may be hard for them to say, okay, we've got somebody that can teach this, however, cannot teach anything else. And we're stuck. What are we going to do? So the discussion was, especially rural districts are going to have a tough time filling this position. And then if they do fill it, what else can they teach so that they're not overstaffed? Another bill. Oh, Shannon, go ahead.
Is that computer science, is it a funded mandate or is it a non-funded mandate? Because that's an additional FTE that
exactly
you're adding to.
Exactly. It's right now there isn't funding attached to it. So this is in the beginning cycle. So of course that's the discussion. The other bill is AB 1468. This is ethnic studies. We already have ethnic studies. So you think, what's going on? This is another layer. What it would do is add to what's current law, add to the current statute. It would add additional requirements. It would add the requirement of having an advisory committee made up of Africa at the state level, made up of experts in like African American, Asian American, and Pacific Islander, Native American, and Latino studies to come up and advise the SBE, the State Board of Education, of base instructional materials, curriculum, making recommendations for this curriculum, and then getting that input from stakeholders on the framework and curriculum and materials. We're talking materials now, textbooks, and that then there's going to be new requirements on top of the existing requirements. There's going to be this curriculum that's developed by and then adopted by the state board that then you would have to make sure that you are using. And then the best part is that about 50% of the districts in California already are doing ethnic studies. They followed what was required of what's in current law. Unless we are grandfathered into this bill, we would have to start over our whole process for ethnic studies. We would have to start back from the beginning, create a stakeholder group to determine what ethnic studies we are going to do with the added layer of this bill, and then go through the whole process over again, unless districts are grandfathered into this bill. That means more time, money, and it would negate what we probably have. Another added layer is that the CDE is going to be monitoring your ethnic studies over a 5-year period of time. And then they're going to identify LAEs that they deem not having high levels of complexity and nuance, and there's no stated definitions of that in this bill, but saying, okay, we don't think that you have high levels of complexity and nuance, and so you're going to be monitored. We're going to put you on the monitoring list. And then, of course, if you deem that you have violated any parts of this, then you can be penalized financially. So the interesting part is that this will be the only curriculum that has these components of monitoring like this and with punitive action. So it's problematic all the way around. And that's why CSBA is opposing it. We haven't taken this up by SANDABS yet, but I think that we already did our job. We had a great stakeholder group. We got to a point of consensus. We've been doing this. And for us to have to start over and wipe out everything we do, we just need to ask for districts if this is going to move forward, that there's bill language written in here that we are to be grandfathered in. Districts that 50% of the districts that are already doing it should be grandfathered in. We did the work. So
Cindy, it sounds like they're taking away our local control.
Exactly. Oh my God, Scott. Yes, that's a huge deal. You hit the nail on the head.
So looking into this a little bit deeper, we did receive on one of our CSBA daily news roundups today, there's an EdSource article talking specifically about this bill. And from the ethnic studies class in its inception, many years ago, was quite controversial. And that was one of the things that there was especially concern among the Jewish community, that it was anti-Semitic, and the way it was being formed, it was revised time and time again in order to be able to get the ethnic studies class through. And it looks like the purpose behind AB 1468 is the Legislative Jewish Caucus are finding that there is anti-Semitic coursework that is being put together, specifically liberated ethnic studies that was put together through an organization that's being adopted by many of the school districts. So in this coursework that we have not adopted as a district, and it's not something that we're planning on using, it does rile up anti-Semitic sentiment. And so that I do find concerning. So I think that this bill may be unfortunately punitive in terms of how you're describing it, but at the same time, I do have a lot of concerns about, in general, how this class, depending on how school districts treat it, could end up having results that create more divisiveness in our communities, not our community directly, but I am concerned about anti-Semitism. And so this is something that I think is worth looking into a little bit more.
I agree. You can also take an oppose unless amended. But part of this is the fact that the Jewish community, I have been, someone approached me on this bill, actually. The Jewish community itself, there are elements that are concerning to them in this bill. And one of it is that they are not represented in that advisory committee. And yet they were part of the initial conversation of setting up the framework. They're not going, this advisory committee that's being set up, they are not reflected in.
I hear you. It's one of those things that,
I think
one group, any group is being elevated or denigrated over or under another. And I'm concerned about divisiveness in general.
I get your point, but I think that the extent to what this bill does in terms of going so far as, even it's going to be posting your elements of your curriculum and your materials on the state board, on the CDE website. This curriculum being separated out from the rest of, from math, English, social studies, all the other pieces of curriculum. Why is that? Why is that going so far as differentiating this curriculum from every other piece of curriculum? And then the other part is that those of us who are doing ethnic studies, that we should be allowed to be grandfathered in. We should. We did the work.
At this point, I don't think that has gone to the education committee yet, has it? For the assembly?
No, none of these bills have gone forward on, they are in the process of working its way through their own House bill. And
Right.
Yeah.
So they haven't actually gone before the education committee, and the education committee will, I'm sure, be doing some of the same. And that would be the time for us to speak up and into the dialogue, I think.
Well,
we did take anti-Semitism into consideration in the forming of our ethnic studies course, but in all different kinds of aspects of groups that might be hurt by some kind of, how should I say it, improper treatment. But all that was considered in our ethnic studies.
Exactly.
It's more so from a state level in terms of in other areas in having accepted curriculum right now that is going in the opposite direction.
So Cindy, what is the action we need to take on this right now?
There's no action because we would not. We can move forward with it if you wish to bring up any of these further for a resolution to vote on. You asked me to bring forward bills to take action on, and that's what I'm doing. And I'm giving you the arguments and the pros and cons, what has been discussed on these bills, and you can choose what you wish to do with it. But you asked me to bring up bills. These are the ones that have been coming up that are have been generating great discussion.
So would our action be to motion to take action on these later and bring them up in more formal manner?
You would bring forward, like we did with last year with the Ochoa Vogue bill, a resolution.
What I would suggest, the other bills that you present, actually, I think there are things that I could definitely throw my support. I mean, the directions, there's one actually that it was to not have. But it could be when it comes to agenda items for future meetings, specifically mention that this is something that you want to see if I was supporting.
And in terms of timing, Bill, you want to start having conversations with the bill's author, as well as what you would do is you would include the chair and vice chair of the education committees of both the Assembly and the Senate. So like the EV bus bill, You would want to start having that conversation right now with your legislators. Because then because then the resolution goes to the legislator. It becomes part of their record. And then and they can pull that within the conversation that they have about the bill. If you wait till after the Edge Committee has had the conversation, then you're kind of late to the party.
But when does it go before the Education Committee? That's not even established yet, I don't think, Cindy.
I'm sorry?
I don't think that has been established yet when it goes before the Education Committee. When does the committee actually meet on these bills?
Some of the dates have not been published yet, Bill, but you definitely want to make sure that you take action prior to the hearing on the bill. And our meetings may not align beautifully with that. And you do not, you don't have to do anything. I don't really care. You asked me to do this, and this is what I'm bringing forward. And you don't have to do any. If you feel that there's another bill on the education related bill report to bring forward, this is the place to bring them up and say, I would love to take a look at this bill, have a position put onto it.
I appreciate you putting together this document and proposing these. And I think that there's a lot here that I know I can get behind. When we get to, yeah. So there was the swatting. So in actuality, it would be more so when was it agenda item 13. Right here. Okay.
Okay. We don't do it now then.
Not now.
Correct.
Okay. All
Thank
right.
you, Cindy.
Yeah, thank you. This is closing that discussion. We good with that? Okay. All right. Then let's move on to 10.2, personnel services, approval of I don't know what a motion to for discussion. So should we go ahead and
Do we need a motion to discuss it?
no, I don't think so.
Can we simply rescind that motion?
Okay. Would you be willing to rescind your motion for 10.1?
Yes. Maybe.
Okay, the motion is rescinded. And the second. Okay, so Mike, can you go ahead and rescind the motion, please?
I rescind. I rescind the motion.
I second.
Okay, cool beans. Moving on. 10.2. Personnel services, approval of resolution number 24/25-17. Reduction or elimination of classified positions, fiscal impact estimated savings, $426,000, 0 cents. Budget source, unrestricted general fund, personnel, various accounts. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Bill?
Second.
Scott, discussion.
Well, maybe Dr. Serviano wants to just speak briefly to the point of what we're trying to do. We're trying to reduce our expenditures. We're trying to save funds. We're trying to cut back in the district office. Dr. Serviano?
Yes, this is brought forward to the board for a reduction in force and to ensure that we essentially meet our financial obligations to reduce our operational costs. But we do have an opportunity in the future to bring back one of these positions under a different funding source, which would be the counseling position. So we'll be bringing that forward before in the future.
I think it's important to note that the budget committee, which was made up of, seemed like 29, 30 different people, Jenny, that looked at different possibilities of ways to try to reduce the budget, which is the point of why do you try to reduce the budget? Because you're already in deficit spending, because you're trying to save funds for the classroom. That's been our goal. And one of the things that a number of people said was try to reduce something at the district office. That's exactly what this is about. And I know that the unions have been talked to about that.
Yeah, that's also in here is a restructuring of the district office to ensure that our positions match the size of our district.
And
Appreciate you doing that work.
so that's not a finite amount as far as the estimated savings, because that's going to be, isn't it year over year, it'll continue to have a positive impact. Any further discussion? Let me call for the vote. It's going to have to be a roll call vote because we do have a virtual board member online. So the vote is going to be each of us individually making that vote. So I am calling for the vote, and Dana Fidland votes aye.
Scott Kraft, aye.
William Millinger votes aye.
Cindy Gardner says aye. The one that's the problem child.
You're still not the problem child. The motion passes unanimously. So 10.3 Personnel Services, approval of resolution number 24/25-18, reduction of particular kinds of certificated services, fiscal impact, estimated savings, $269,025.00. Budget source, unrestricted general funds, restricted general funds, personnel, various accounts. Let me note that there is a revision that was discussed prior to closed session. The supporting document for this item 10.3 shows a change, reduction of 1.2 FTE or full-time employee. It should actually reflect 2.2 FTE or full-time employees. So the supporting documents have been corrected, but for when the agenda was first sent out, the supporting documents had that error in it. So do I have a motion?
So moved with the identified change.
Second.
So Bill and Scott, do we have any discussion?
Same comments as previous item.
Exactly. Okay, let me call for the vote. Dana Ridland, aye.
Scott Kraft, aye.
William Millinger, aye.
Cindy Gardner, aye.
Motion passes unanimously. 10.4. Educational Services approval to purchase 650 Chromebooks, cases, and Google Chrome OS operating system management console licenses for all students in grades 3 through 5 at Rome of the World Unified School District as part of the 2-to-1 initiative beginning in the 2025-2026 school year. Fiscal impact $257,833.00. Budget source, district Title I funds.
So
Bill?
sorry, I didn't have your light on.
What?
I take it back. I'm not.
Do I have a motion? Scott,
So moved.
seconded by? Do I have a second?
Second.
Bill. Discussion. Calling for
I
the.
believe Ms. Whiteside already made a point for this the earlier.
So calling for the vote, Dana Ridland, aye.
Scott Kraft, aye.
William Millinger, aye.
Cindy Gardner, aye.
The motion passes unanimously. 10.5, Business Services, appointment of Citizens Oversight Committee members, fiscal impact none. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Scott?
Second.
Bill? So discussion, each of us have a sheet from Dr. Sevillano and Jenny listing applicants for the position of for positions on our Citizens Oversight Committee. I can't talk. So if you want to use this to help with the discussion. Does Cindy have? It's in the board folder on the Google Drive, but
Can the public see it right now? If not, maybe we should just read it.
Yeah, that it's not like published in there.
But I think it's necessary for us to read it. It's, yeah.
It is posted.
Okay, okay. So, and it shows here that we have 3 applicants and there are 6 groups. So we have actually room for more applicants.
We actually need a 4th applicant to establish a quorum for meeting, and we would need to keep aiming for 7.
Okay,
So we have already produced a draft parent square and news blast to go out. That'll probably go out next week, and we have an application. The application's still on our website, and we're soliciting people who want to be involved too. And so we'll just plan on having a routine agenda item as we gather more appointees, people who want to complete an application.
Have we reached out to our PTAs and to the bond committee that actually served?
Well,
Thanks.
Yes, we have.
yes.
So
One of them is on there that's Ms.
One of them
Jeffs.
is-
yeah. So taxpayer organization member.
That would be a member of a bona fide taxpayer organization that can be several. It's, and they would we wouldn't, run a background check, but
What would be examples of taxpayer organizations?
an advocacy group, there's what you hear on the news, there's
Howard Jarvis.
Thomas Jarvis, sorry, I had the Jarvis, but I wasn't, so,
Howard Jarvis, Prop 13.
yeah, so.
Okay, all right,
You
so
know.
some sort of a watchdog organization
Yeah.
of sorts. Okay. So here, the intent is to approve these folks to be, okay, so, and 3 people, 3 community members who have chosen to volunteer and step up to help us out with oversight. Any comments?
Just thank you for volunteering and wanting to put the time in.
You're here.
You want me to call a vote?
Okay, actually, let me go ahead and list these awesome people who are stepping up. There's Mr. Jeff Young, who is available as an at-large member. Ms. Kimberly Schaffs, part of so she is our current, I think, Mountain Council for PTA president and was also helped out with the bond committee. And then Mr. Dave Vicky, who is a reporter for the Mountain News and tremendous volunteer on the Mountain, member of Rivet Foundation, I believe. So we need a business representative, senior citizen group representative, aforementioned taxpayer organization member. We have a parent another parent or guardian of child enrolled in the district, and an at-large community member actually is already filled by Mr. Jeff Young if we choose to vote and approve them. What was that?
Yeah, I just want to make a comment that Mr. Vicky listed that he is eligible to represent all groups. And the note there, and Ms. Jeffs could represent 2 different groups. So depending on our other applicants, we do have some flexibility. You're not voting to establish what group they represent, just that them on the panel, on the committee.
Fantastic. Ready to vote?
Yeah.
Okay, I will go ahead. Dana Ridland, aye.
Scott Kraft, aye.
William Millinger, aye.
Cindy Gardner, aye.
Motion passes unanimously. Ten point six, business services approval of resolution number 24/25-15. Resolution for maintaining a positive financial position, fiscal impact none.
So moved. Second.
And Bill, any discussion? Thank you, Jenny. Calling for the vote. Dana Ridland, aye.
Scott Kraft, aye.
William Millinger, aye.
Cindy Gardner, aye.
Motion passes unanimously. 10.7, business services approval to accept the proposal from Allegiance Electric Inc. for the LED outdoor lighting conversion project. Fiscal impact approximately $104,340.00. Budget source, budget, community-oriented, policing services, school violence prevention program, SVPP.
So moved.
Bill?
Second.
Scott? Any discussion? Going ahead with the vote, Dana Ridland, aye.
Scott Kraft, aye.
William Mellinger, aye.
Cindy Gardner, aye.
Motion passes unanimously. 10.8. Business services approval to accept the proposal from Four Seasons Roofing Inc. for the emergency roofing repairs for the Lake Arrowhead Elementary School roof. Fiscal impact $61,841.00. Budget source, maintenance budget.
Aye. So moved.
Bill?
Second.
Yeah. Any discussion?
Is this the same firm that's been doing the roofing at RIM High School?
You know, I'd have to ask Jim that. I'm not 100% sure because we get multiple quotes. So I know it's partially the same product as RIM, but I don't know if it's actually the same contractor. And just so you know too, that we have turned this into an insurance claim. And so we'll have a reimbursement toward it.
Okay, good. So it is the same product, which seems weird. It might be the same firm as well in recollection, but
More than one firm will do it. There is Chapman Roofing there.
Good.
There's we get 3 bids, not an informal.
Okay. Calling for the vote. Dana Ridland, aye.
Scott Kraft, aye.
William Mellinger, aye.
Cindy Gardner, aye.
Motion passes unanimously. 10.9, business services approval of resolution number 24/25-14. Room of the World Unified School District regarding its intention to issue tax exempt general obligation bonds, fiscal impact none.
So moved.
Bill?
Second.
And Scott, any discussion? Going ahead with the vote, Dana Ridland, aye.
Scott Kraft, aye.
William Mellinger, aye.
Cindy Gardner, aye.
Motion passes unanimously. 10.10, business services approval of kitchen flooring project for child nutrition services. Fiscal impact approximately $95,000. Budget source, grant, restricted kitchen infrastructure and training fund, and Fund 13 net cash resource.
So moved.
Ooh, Scott,
Second.
spicy, Bill. Any discussion? Moving ahead with the vote, Dana Ridland, aye.
Scott Kraft, aye.
William Mellinger, aye.
Cindy Gardner, aye.
The motion passes unanimously. 10.11, business services approval to adopt resolution number 24/25-16 to authorize participation in the zero emission school bus and infrastructure incentive project, fiscal impact none.
So moved.
Bill?
Second.
Scott? Any discussion?
At first, I was about to say no to this because how in the world can we do electric buses on the mountain? But this keeps us in the conversation, if you will, for busing. And so it allows us to do what we need to do to not just stop being part of the conversation.
Well, we are required to keep moving forward no matter what, because there's statute, there's current law that says to 2035. So you're right, Bill, we have to keep plodding along. We still have to go forward with that date and being able to meet the requirements of that date.
Yep.
Okay, moving ahead with the vote. Dana Ridland, aye.
Scott Kraft, aye.
William Mellinger, aye.
Cindy Gardner, aye.
The motion passes unanimously. 11.0, consent calendar. Are there any items that you wish to have pulled?
Number one.
Okay. Yeah. Any other items? And are you okay? All right. Then, do I have a motion for 11.2, 11.3, 11.4, 11.5, 11.6, 11.7, 11.8, 11.9, 11.10, 11.11, 11.12, 11.13, 11.14, 11.15, 11.16, 11.17, 11.18, 11.19, 11.20, and 11.21.
So moved. Second.
Bill moved, Scott seconded. Is there any discussion on those items?
I just would like to say that it's neat to have things like the Valley of Enchantment Monarch Meadow project and the donation that's coming in for that. We appreciate donations like that and the fact that people are involved in their local schools. And I appreciate that.
It's pretty sweet, yes.
It's a sweet guy.
Yeah.
One mic.
Okay, then I'm gonna go ahead and call for the vote. Dana Ridland, aye.
Scott Kraft, aye.
William Ellinger, aye.
Cindy Gardner, aye.
Motion passes unanimously. So 12.0 items removed from the consent calendar. We have one item, item number 1. Do I have a motion on that item?
I move to accept it at the moment.
Right. Okay.
Second.
Okay, how about discussion?
So this resolution was placed regularly monthly on the board calendar so that we could have, it was meant as a continuing resolution, so we could have virtual meetings, but that was if the governor has what's it called?
State of
A state of emergency, and he has to have declared a state of emergency. We are not in a state of emergency. I don't think that we need to have this. I don't think it has any value, in fact, right now for us to continue to approve this or have it even on our agenda.
We can look at that and make an adjustment.
So, Doctor, do you want us to approve it still?
That's really the board's desire. It's been something that's been on here for months. And as we discovered tonight, virtual meetings due to inclement weather, you're not permitted to have virtual meetings, full virtual meetings unless there's a state of emergency. So it's really the board's desire. They want to take action.
So my suggestion is let's go ahead and vote through this and then just not put it on the agenda. So let's follow through with this, whether we want to say no or yes, doesn't matter. And then just board president and superintendent, just strike it off.
Right, so I mean, to your point, but regardless of how we vote, it is going to be what it is. So any further discussion? I'm calling for the vote. Dana Ridland, aye.
Scott Kraft, aye.
William Ellinger, nay.
Cindy Gardner, aye.
So the motion passes 3-1. There we go.
So upset right now.
Scott will need counseling. 13.0 governance team future agenda items planning. 13.1 time allotted for the Board of Trustees to request agenda items for future meetings.
Okay, so I'm going to make a proposal for some resolutions to be brought forward as agenda items for us to take action on. AB 1111, which is the EV bus. AB 1224, which is the teacher days of service going from 30 to 60. To support Ochoa Bogue, SB 389, which is the specialized physical healthcare services, and SB 835, which is the Cambridge International Education Program.
Can you repeat what the first SB number was, please?
711. The SB. Oh, the SB was
SB 389, The second one is SB 835.
Yeah, thank you.
And then the last one, AB 887, which is the computer science.
And that last one was to take a stand. Yeah, you're bringing all of these up for us to be able to discuss and take a
Position on, right. So the resolution would be put forward. The board can vote to accept the resolution or not accept the resolution.
Cindy, what was the ethnic studies one?
Yeah, are we missing that one?
If you want, do you want to bring this up as a resolution or no?
I thought we were gonna try to maybe.
What was the number?
If AB 1468 is the bill number for that.
I'm all right with it not being listed here, if none of you want to.
I'd like to add AB 1468 so that we actually make a statement about it.
Yeah, can we make, yeah, I agree.
Okay, all right.
So those are, there you go.
So Cindy, is there a timeline that you wish to have these discussed?
Well, I would, if we could put them, because we're doing advocacy on the workshop, if we could put them on the agenda for the workshop.
Yeah.
That fits in with our advocacy. The thing is that when CSBA or SANDABS takes a position on a bill, a letter is basically written up and sent to the bill author and to the various different committees that lets them know of the position taken. So we would follow it in those steps. It doesn't.
Okay. Cool. Are there any other future agenda items? Then moving ahead, 14.0 future meeting dates. Regular board workshop meeting, March 27, 2025, 4 p.m. 24740 San Moritz Way, Crestline, California, 92325. Regular board meeting, April 17th, 2025, 4 p.m. Closed session, 5:30 p.m. Open session, 24740 San Moritz Way, Crestline, California, 92325. No need for us to go back to closed session. Okay. All righty, 16.0 adjournment, 16.1 adjourn meeting. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
And the board meeting, the meeting was adjourned at 8:28 p.m. Oh, actually, you know what? Hold on. Yeah, we need to vote, don't we?
Scott Craft, yes.
Wait, Hannah Ridland, aye.
William Millinger, aye.
Scott Elbreed.
Me, Cindy Gardner. I keep messing up my audio. Aye.
Okay, the motion passes unanimously. We're going to probably have to change the time. The meeting was adjourned at 8:29.